Hi, this is Eva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome to Midnight Mandela. Whoops. I'm like totally out of it today. Like, trying to close the window on the wrong window. Okay, here we go. Try to concentrate. I almost shut down my streaming software by mistake. Not off to the world's best start. Okay, so how was your week? Went pretty good for me. I think I am definitely getting better at the shifts, so they don't like knock me out like they used to. But and I think they come so fast now that it's kind of really hard to pin it down. But there's been some changes in my area that are suspicious. Because last week I said that the store discount tire, the sign is weird. And then a couple days ago, there's this clock tower near my work, and it used to be like there was it's like an apartment complex, and there's a big straight area that goes up many stories, and then there's a clock on the top. I mean, it's not anything fancy. It's kind of very newish and cheesy looking. It's not like the ancient towers that were really cool, but I still think it's kind of cool. Well, it used to be just like the straight tower thing, and I noticed a couple days ago now it's like kind of a step pyramid. It goes like that and then up, and then the top piece of the cake, the layer cake, has the clock. And what's weird now is you can't really see the clock that well. And I'm not right under it. I'm from a distance, so I should have a really good view of it. So basically, the top section is just not high enough to have that big clock there, and you can and still be able to see the bottom of the clock. You can't really, it's cut off. So the actual architectural style now is just even more cheesy than before, because they should have made the clock a little smaller, or they should have made that piece of architecture a little higher so you could actually see the clock. But anyway, so that just kind of, it's just one of those things where you're like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then I went out to, now this, I don't know if it's a recent change, but I have been talking about how the river showed up at the bottom of my property. And, it's kind of weird because I probably should have been thinking about this. And I know a lot of other people have said that like weird little reminiscences in their life showed up in their life. Like you're like, oh, I wish I had two of these. And then suddenly they have two of these. And it occurred to me when I was walking down there that I many times had thought, it would be nice to have a little river, but not too close to the house, so that if there was any flooding, it wouldn't risk the house. And now I literally do have a little river at the end of my property. And it actually is weird to me that I hadn't thought of that before. So you kind of have to wonder, it was like, what's going on with all that. But so there's that river down there, as I've said before. But I also noticed this week that I used to have a lot of willow trees mixed in with oak trees down there, like a lot of willows, maybe 60% willow trees. They like it all soggy. And even in the dry years, they managed to do well. So I could just guess their roots were down maybe in the water table, because they always look fine. And I was down there, and I realized that, where's the willow trees? I was kind of thinking, because I used to think, isn't it neat to have the tree that aspirin comes from? Like if there's a nuclear holocaust and you're still alive, at least you can get some aspirin out of that bark, right? Because it's not that hard to get the aspirin out of the bark. The natives would I think they just like steeped the bark, and then they would just drink the water for the aspirin. So I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I have this willow tree with aspirin in it. Well, there's none. There are no willow trees. There's no dead trees. There's no signs of the willow trees. I looked all back in there and realized I have 3 acres, so there's lots of room for them, and there are none. There are none. The neighbors have none. I guess we're not doing willows around here anymore. And they actually supposedly like it by the river last I checked. So I don't know what happened, but we got none. It's all oak trees now, all. In fact, this is kind of pruning season, because you got to get everything pruned back for the fire department before fire season. And so I was down there pruning, and that's when I really noticed, because usually I have to prune willow trees, and I don't have to now. Well, I still got work, but So I don't know. It's just been kind of a weird week. And people, I think, Shari, you were talking about energy bombs. The only thing I could say is that's really stuck out to me is last night I was kind of sitting there doing my work, and then I had this weird fear feeling. And it was just sort of it was weird because I'm like, what? There is absolutely nothing going on. It's the exact same thing that I do pretty much every night, doing certain projects to ship the next morning. And I'm like, is there something going on I don't know about? I checked around the building. It was absolutely quiet. And I really kind of looked inside me and I'm like, no, I don't think it's a premonition or anything. And I'm not really sure what caused it, but I just sort of, I'm not really prone to that form. Like sometimes you feel anxious, right? But not that fear feeling like I saw a snake or something. So it was weird for me. I actually didn't know how to, I didn't know what to think about it at first because I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. So it passed, I just was like, okay, there's actually absolutely nothing whatsoever going on right now at all, anywhere around here. And it finally settled down, but it was strange. And then a little later, it kind of came back up again. I'm like, okay, there's still nothing going on. It was a weird feeling because I really didn't like, I felt fear, but I didn't know why. I didn't even feel like anything was going to happen. That's what confused me. I didn't have this like it was just the strangest thing. It was, I can't even describe it. Normally when you have fear, you have some kind of a concept of like, I'm afraid because I'm going to give a public speech. I'm nervous about this date, something, even like I'm worried somebody's outside and it's creeping. No, nothing. There was nothing. So that was strange. Okay. Okay. You guys talking about this God? Who brought that one up? Yeah, that was weird. Bess. Let's see. I used to work with some Navajo ladies. They said they would chew the inner willow bark. Yeah, because aspirin, that's, last I checked, don't know if it's still true in this timeline, but that's where aspirin came from. And at least in the old days, last I checked, that's how we learned about aspirin, was that the natives, Native Americans specifically, would chew that bark, and us white folks or whatever tried it too and said, hey, this works. It really works. So they finally isolated that it was this one substance in there called aspirin, and they called it aspirin, and they synthesized it, and that's how we got that pill. This fear has woke me up several times. There's no reason. Yeah, I don't even know if I want to call it a panic attack because it didn't rise to that level. But I'm not prone to that kind of thing, so I could certainly see that if somebody was more anxious normally, it could be. The other thing is I was not asleep. So, I certainly had like bad dreams where I woke up all panicky and then I'm like, oh, luckily that was just a dream. Hallelujah. But, and I don't even know if I want to call it anxiety. It was a different thing. I do sometimes get anxious, worrying about this and that, but usually there's a thing I have in my head that I am anxious about. And maybe that thing that I have in my head is not a good reason for that anxiety. And maybe it isn't even the real reason for that anxiety, but at least usually there's something there that I can blame my anxiety on. Even if I dug deep, I may just realize that that's not the real source of it. But there was like nothing. That was strange. It was like a ingredient all by itself that usually comes with other ingredients. My stomach was knotted, and I've had a little bit of stomach thing up and down. I never really know if that's some kind of energy thing or what. Just like don't eat for a while and it goes away, but willow bark has the aspirin. Yeah. So I don't know the whole storyline of the origin of aspirin. I don't know if that's still the same. I really noticed that stuff is shifty, but that's how it was at one time. Let's see. Okay, I'm not sure what Anne's talking about here. Story about a new one, but I don't know what the one is. You have a residue for the class. Okay, I'm going to jump onto this Egyptian god real quick because I too find this one rather interesting. There is like kind of an endless number of Egyptian gods these days. Bes or Bizu or Aha. Aha. Yeah. Sometimes I feel trolled. Was an ancient Egyptian dwarf god. Okay, he kind of looks Rastafarian too. He was a complex being who was both a deity and a demonic fighter. He was a god of war, yet he was also a patron. Let me shut this off. A patron of childbirth and the home. See, that is like, I feel like these guys are just getting weird. Okay, so a deity, a demonic fighter. I'm like, what even? I don't even. Do they even have the concept of demonic? I don't remember Egyptians having that concept. He was a god of war, but a patron of childbirth and the home, and associated with sexuality, humor, music, and dancing. I mean, like, isn't that like that's all over the map? Although he began as a protector of the pharaoh, he became very popular with everyday Egyptian people because he protected women and children above all others. And he looks like a Rastafarian dwarf dude. And what's up with the chin with the what's up with going on right here? Like, why is it all wrinkly, crinkly? Where did they get all these gods from? Like, who comes up with all this stuff? All right, here's him again. Now he doesn't even look like he has this one. He looks like he has a lion head or something. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. They're not. He's not quite as crazy as a few of the new ones, but there's like so many now that it's starting to be like new birds and new snakes and new sea creatures. It's like there's millions of them, and my brain's gonna explode if I try to track them all because I just can't. All right, so where are we at? Bast. I don't remember Bassett. I mean, I just remember it being Bast instead of Bassett. So I know it's the same one. I do remember there being a cat god, though, because I like the kitty cats. Are there any purple streetlights near you or something weird is happening with those? Purple. I do not believe so. We definitely had a spate of those. I don't know. They make everything look kind of orange. And they're supposed to be like low power use, but everything looks hideous and you can't tell what color your car is. I mean, your car won't look like its real color. I've heard the police hate them because they can't tell what color cars are. But they're just obnoxious. And Walmart had them, and then they replaced them all, pretty much all of them. I think there was much complaining. I don't know. They're just, I don't know. You just get in them, and you're just like, your brain's like, ugh. But yeah, haven't any purple. We do get some purple headlights sometimes. Those are wrinkles grouchy people get, right? I don't know. It really looks more to me like some kind of a Klingon from Star Wars. I mean, those are like super wrinkly. On to the residue. Yes, I'm ready. They said it was from a bad batch of lights. Oh, I think I read about that. I heard about it somewhere. Was it on here? I read about it. I saw it somewhere. I can't remember the source now, but recently I did hear, it might have even been from here or one of you guys, that, yeah, that they had a bunch of lights started turning purple. I agree with you. That is a little interesting. I mean, if all this other stuff hadn't been weird, I probably wouldn't think much of it. But I do think that's interesting. There's been some weird shifty stuff too. Like there was a while that I was in a timeline where like almost all the license plates you could barely read them in the dark because the coating they put over them had crunched up in the sun so much that when in the dark when the headlights hit them, it reflected light so bad that you couldn't see crap unless they had like a very new plates. And it was like more than half the cars had that. And it certainly like they just all did. And I actually thought people were coding their plates to make it so that the red light cameras couldn't see them. And so I asked my friend about it. I'm like, oh, so everybody's coding there, because I'd heard there's a coding to stop the red light cameras. And he's like, oh, no, that's just from them being old. And I look them up, and yeah, it was all from them being old. And then like 2 years later, nobody had them anymore. Like almost all the plates were fine again. And I know nobody, like in those 2 years, people didn't all replace their plates. I didn't. My friend did it. Nobody I know replaced their plates. So it wasn't that just suddenly they're all gone. So it was just like, I guess we got out of the timeline of crappy coatings on the license plates or something. Unexplained anxiety. Yeah, so I don't usually get that though. I don't usually, when there's a shift, I'm just like tired and I feel kind of sick. Like there's something wrong with me or something, but I can't really put my finger, like I'm not sneezing or coughing or anything, so I can't really say like what it is. So I don't know. I've been doing better on the shifts. I've been feeling healthier, so maybe this is now how it's going to be, or I'm really not sure. I just guess we'll have to wait and see. Corpus Museum. Is that another one of those? Because we have there's a creepy museum in, I think it's Los Angeles, was it? Bergen Museum, Corpus Museum, and all right, I don't think I've had that one in Oegst. I'm pretty sure I can't pronounce that right. Whoops, Netherlands. Okay, but it's not there. All right, Corpus Experience, but then Corpus Christi Museums. So Atlas Obscura had a link to it, but the link is down. Now, if Atlas Obscura had it, it was probably some weird creepy thing, but I'm really not finding it anywhere else but that down link. Corpus Christi Museum of Science and History, that sounds very mundane. So yeah, if you find a link, let me know. There's a band that has an album called Once Bitten. Yeah, I don't know, like that kind of demonic sounding album stuff, that's been around since I was a kid, so. Did anyone check them for UV characteristics? That's funny you brought that up because we are going to have a conversation about that, but not with license plates. Oh, the lights. Okay. Yes, there will be a conversation about that on another subject. I might jump to it. Put a red light in your car, it disables glowing. I'm confused on that one too. Oh, okay. So you're saying that there's a Mandela in that once bitten thing? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know about that one, so I can't really help on that one. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's kind of surprised me because um I would have thought that the when I saw the plates are all that bad, I'm like, I was a little surprised too. I'm like, are they allowing this? Like, is it because they couldn't find a law against it? And so this was a little bit earlier in the Mandela and before the pandemic, so I wasn't quite as distrustful about. I still was like, how is this allowed to be like this? But then I'm like, well, maybe they can't replace all the plates and it was the government's fault since the government issued the plates, so you can't blame the person if it's the government, so maybe that's it. But it did seem a little weird that I hadn't heard any abject complaining from the police. Yeah, I definitely some of our purple chates lights were changed back to white, so that's always a tricky one. Did the government come in and fix them, or what? So I don't know. We always wonder about those. Okay, so we'll close that one down. If you find what you mean on the Corpus Museum, if you find the link, let me know. All right, I'm going to jump to this speaking of weird glow in the dark things. So this is a particularly interesting one because my mother was an antique collector, and for my whole life and before that, and she was fairly well versed in antiques, and I actually had to help a lot. Not that I always wanted to, but she would sell antiques at various venues, and she needed an assistant. So I actually learned a lot about antiques. I'm not as well versed as some people because I wasn't trying to learn. I was just doing my job, but you hear blah, 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 blah all day. This is this, this is this. You pick it up, even if you're not even making an effort. I learned a lot about antique stuff. And one thing I'd never heard of until about 2 years ago was uranium glass. Now, I had heard of Vaseline glass. Yes, very common collector's item, Vaseline glass. I never once heard that was freaking glow in the dark. And as a kid, I love glow in the dark stuff. And I mean, this is a collector's item thing. So about 2 years ago, I started hearing about uranium glass. And basically, it started showing up on eBay. Now, theoretically, it would have always showed up on eBay, right? But no, I had never seen it. And then I was seeing it all the time. So I looked into it a couple years ago, and it said occasionally there would some of the old glassware had uranium in it. And if you shine a black light on it, it would glow. And I'm like, well, that is pretty effing bizarre. But the whole history for me of the nuclear development and stuff has changed quite a bit. So, then we have the whole thing where a lot of people remember Chernobyl as being somewhere you could not go for, thousands and thousands of years. And now it's like, oh, people go visit and it's really not that bad because it's, and that was not the case. And remember, Hiroshima and Nagasaki was going to be, hundreds of thousands of years contaminated, but now it's like, after a couple of decades, it's fine, So the whole history of radiation and how it operates and all that has changed for some of us. And so I guess I wasn't as shocked as I could have been that there was uranium glass. Okay, so what's interesting, though, is I noticed this just lately that it's not just this rare thing. It's like tons of the old glassware are uranium glass now. So if you took a black light, if you had old glassware and you took your black light and it had the right wavelength, you would probably find that some of your old stuff is uranium glass, especially if it's got like a yellow or like that kind of light green, clear but light green tint to it. There's a very good chance that that's uranium glass. And apparently most Vaseline glass, which is that color, is now at least uranium glass. It literally is depleted uranium that was used as a colorant. Now, supposedly it is so depleted that it is very minimal radiation, and like your cell phone has more radiation. I don't know if that's good or bad. And so they say it's not actually dangerous. Who the heck knows? I mean, I don't think this was even in my reality before. But so you can actually get this flashlight. This one, you need to get one that's 365 and 395 are the two wavelengths that you need. And you can see that Amazon has one. I ordered one because I do still have quite a bit of old depression glass and that kind of thing. And ironically, I've been fiddling around with making the lamps lately, and I got in an old lamp that I'm going to refurbish, and I thought it was all clear glass, and 3 of the balls, like they're like giant beads, basically, that go on the lamp, are yellowish. So I was kind of irked because now I'm like, why did they put these light yellow ones on with all the clear? It doesn't match. So I'm like totally going to redesign that lamp, and I want all the colors to match, and I'm going to get some yellow, this and that. So I'm like looking at these balls, and I realize I'm like, these are probably uranium glass because they're yellow with the green tones, just a hint. And there's a good chance that there are uranium. So I went ahead and picked up this flashlight. It's not going to be delivered for, I think, till tomorrow, so I won't know. But I'm really curious to see how much stuff I have that's actually uranium glass now. I think there's a good chance I have some. So I went on the subreddit called Uranium Glass, And people are like, oh, yeah, I just went to the junk store and I found this and I found this. And I found 3 things at the junk store today that were uranium. I'm like, so it's not rare if you can just trot in there and find it like that. It's all over eBay. Just, it's crazy town. And then I guess there's another one that's like, I think they called it manganese, and it, instead of glowing like green, it glows like reddish or something. Um, so there's that. I'm gonna just go into the history of it. So yeah, radioactive glass, woohoo! And it's ironic because we're apparently dropping depleted uranium bombs on the Ukrainian, the Russians in Ukraine, which will of course contaminate, according to the storyline, contaminate the ground in Ukraine. Because this is the Ukraine's ground that we're dropping these bombs on. So there was a big stink about that. So I'm trying to figure it out. As best I can tell, they're saying that this glass, the depleted uranium, is like way more depleted and therefore way less dangerous than the bombs we're dropping on the Ukraine. But yeah, who can keep track of all this stuff? It's not from that album, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Unfortunately, I know nothing about that album, so I cannot help on that one. Carnival glass. So yeah, some of the carnival glass they're saying is uranium glass. And they're saying some of the finishes are have uranium in them. I love uranium glass. I see it in antique shops, but I can never afford it. So I would definitely go to the junks, like the junk stores, like thrift stores, with one of those little flashlights and just I spy with your little eye, because it sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, like you have a good chance of finding something if you just, anything that's old glass, just check it. I like my depleted uranium in my cereal. I know. My hair glows chartreuse under UV. No dye. Nobody else glowed that I checked. Huh. Yeah, yeah, there's other icky things that glow in the house. So when you shine your UV flashlight, just don't shine it in the bathroom, because like gross things also. Dead bugs, scorpions, stains of various types. All these other things also glow in the dark. But supposedly uranium glass glows because it's actually slightly radioactive. And if you get a Geiger counter, it will react to uranium glass, is the story. 66% of periodic tables completely changed. Yeah, that thing, I don't recognize it anymore. I gave up, and it's always changing, and it's making me crazy. Okay, so anyway, you look at it now, they use that stuff way back. I really feel like radiation is probably a lot less dangerous in the current timeline than I recall, because as I said, it what we dropped on Japan now is pretty much depleted. It's people move back and everything. So it's not like a wasteland that you can't go or anything. Same with Chernobyl. It's a little bit contaminated, but not that big a deal now. So they're saying they use it as a colorant. Adding a glass mix before melting for coloration. But weirdly, they also say some of the clear glass is uranium glass. So I'm like, it's a colorant, but the glass is clear. Why did you add it? Proportion usually varies from trace levels to about 2% uranium by weight, although some 20th century pieces were made with up to 25% uranium. First identified in 1789 by German chemist, uranium was soon being added to decorative glass for its fluorescent effects. So I don't really understand, because other than like carnival glass, which has like a film of fluorescence, most of the stuff is not fluorescent at all unless you put it under a black light. I mean, were we running around with black lights 100 years ago, having our psychedelic yaya trips? And I mean, like, I can't see my mother or my grandmother certainly would be doing any of that. So she wouldn't even know that it was glowing in the dark, because who had black lights? You know, when I was a kid, we didn't have portable black light flashlights and stuff. One of the first to market the glowing glass was James Powell Whitefair's. Was made into, and it's everything too. It's not just tableware. If you go online, you'll see like it's figurines, anything of glass, marbles, even jewelry from that area had a lot of glass that had uranium. So you could be wearing it on your neck if you have an old piece with glass. Little decanters and stuff. I'm trying to think, just like anything, cups, anything that was glass in those days could be uranium glass now. There's been a minor revival in art glassware. Otherwise, modern uranium glass is now mainly limited to small objects like beads or marbles. Now, I did notice that about 10 years ago, apparently there was this new, that I don't remember having happened, that they started selling like these small marbles of uranium glass. So the official story is that it was really popular up until World War II, and then they needed the uranium for bombs. And so it was harder to get, and now it's still kind of hard to get, but weirdly you can get it, but it's depleted uranium. So they're saying that it's not, you can't make a bomb with it because it doesn't have enough radiation. So then I'm like, why is it a controlled substance? I don't know. It just, let's see. Normal color uranium glass ranges from yellow to green, but it could be other colors as well. Vaseline glass is sometimes used as a synonym for uranium glass. I've never heard of Vaseline glass being uranium glass, but this usage is frowned on because they're saying uranium glass could be other colors than Vaseline glass. Vaseline glass is kind of a greenish. So they're even saying they used it in 79 AD. There's a mosaic containing yellow glass with 1% uranium found in a Roman villa. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of modern production, but there is some. You see, there's some jewelry here. I don't know. It's just flipping me out because even like the real popular stuff, like the Fenton and all of those glasswares that you see all the time, like some of the I'm gonna have to check what all has it, but Fenton made like that hobnail bumpy white hobnail stuff, and it's like, so it's like everything. And Fiesta ware, some of that had it. Carnival glass, tiles had it, I forgot. So like everything, even tiles, it's flipping me out. I'm sorry, but I just I don't recall any of that stuff. Yeah, everything glows, even your glassware. Yeah, good point. I mean, it goes with all the animals and stuff. I think they were talking about Salvador Dali, Crucifixion Corpus Hypercubus. Okay, I have no idea what a hypercubus is, so we're going to have to go into that. Salvador Dali. There are super guppies. What's a super guppy? Yeah, just wait. Your joke about carnival glass being from Carnivia. Just wait. I bet you will get it. I mean, like everything is from somewhere now. We're probably going to get a Carnivia. I would not be at all shocked if something like that happened. Well, duh, obviously. Where did you think carnival glass came from? Duh. Crucifixion Corpus Hypercubus. I have never heard of Corpus Hypercubus crucifixion. In 1954, oil on canvas painting by Salvador Dali. I'll turn it to the side so you guys can see it. So apparently he painted this. Okay. I've never seen it. Is it supposed to be popular? I don't know. Dali's interest in surrealism diminished and became fascinated with nuclear science. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Henceforth, the atom was his favorite food for thought. 1951, Mystical Manifesto introduced an art theory he called nuclear mysticism. I have never heard of that. Combined his interests in Catholicism, mathematics, science, and Catalan culture. I don't know. This is all just total hodgepodge weird. What is it? Are we in like the hodgepodge timeline right now? Like that dwarf god was like, yeah, he's the god of war and birth and homes and yeah, what? You know, how do those things go together? Okay, so he's kind of combined Catholicism, mathematics, science, and Catalan culture in order to reestablish values and classic values and techniques. Yeah, it doesn't really, like, my brain just is like, I don't get it. Nuclear mysticism. I have never heard of this. Well, he did attempt to distance himself from surrealist movement after his development of nuclear mysticism. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know. I just feel like we're making stuff up now. I noticed part of the beginning of Top Gun with a new Mandela Effect. Does anybody know of any Top Gun Mandela Effects? You know, I really have to watch a movie a bunch of times in the old days to notice a difference now, and I just didn't do that with Top Gun. I totally kind of, you know, during that era, there was a lot of movies I kind of half watched while I was doing my homework. Didn't really concentrate on them, so... Nano guppies. Preliminal remembers the Cubist painting. It doesn't look like... Yeah, I don't recall anything non-Dali looking coming from Dali, frankly, or nuclear mysticism. I have never heard of that. There's a new Van Gogh called Good Samaritan. Did we have that one on? Let me see. Okay, I think we did have this one on. Yes, I do recall this one. Yep. Dang, is it a little different than last time? I don't recall this person looking quite so demonic as last time. Look at the face here too. Look at his... He's looking at it like it looks like his eyes are all sideways and he's like, I'm gonna die. I don't know. It looks worse than last time. And the horse head is all bent. I don't know. It looks a little different than I don't remember the horse's head being that bent, and it looks a little creepier than I remember. I thought it was like in a cave before, wasn't it? Now it looks like it's by this river, but not in a cave. I think this one has changed, even since last time I saw it. I swear I remember it looking like a cave. It doesn't look like a cave now. Is there any of them that it looks like a cave? They all look pretty similar. Only if you look at it really close up, I guess I could mistake it for a cave here. But then all this grass and stuff really kind of kills that look. So I don't know. I think it's changed since last time. What color is Yeah, it was chartreuse was red for me. So we've been on that one, a reddish. It was like burgundy. It was a burgundy that had a lot of red in it. Yeah, what is going on in that painting? I know, I know. Yeah. Okay, so somebody brought this one up. This is one of the reasons I think there was a big shift. Although, frankly, it's true that I don't know when this happened because it's not like I monitor every day. But it's one of those things where this has been a Mandela for me for a long time, and I didn't expect it. I'm a little more open to it now because um, turmeric came back. So it was turmeric originally, and then it was turmeric for years and years. And then, what, a few months ago, 6 months ago, it became turmeric again. The R returned to the building. So the Volkswagen logo, that is one of the earliest Mandelas. Was is around 2016ish or something that everybody's like, oh my god, the it changed. Okay, so somebody gets on here on Retconned yesterday, one day ago, today, 23rd of May, 2023, logo is back to the divided version everywhere. Yes, it is in fact back to the divided version. Okay, so what if you look back now at all the old Mandela videos, it says, didn't it used to be undivided? And now we're back to divided. Okay, so I agree with this person that for me, this is now a flip flop. That this has the divided version is my original, although there's a little bit off with this one. But in fact, because some of the other part is a little different. But yes, I came from the divided version world, and for years and years now, it has been undivided, and now it is divided again, a little bit differently, and I'll go into that. So, what do you guys remember? Did this just change for you again, or have you been in this divided version timeline for years and years and years? Because there was kind of a mixed bag of responses here. But this was like a huge ME for the longest time. Oh my gosh. And people used to come on Retconned and they would have some kind of residual blurry image of the logo on someone's car. And you could barely see, and it kind of looked like there was a line there, but then you're like, is that a scratch mark or is that really a line? And so we would like ponder over that little vague indicator that maybe there was a line if the lighting is just right. But now there's always been a line. So apparently all of those photos that I saw and those people are of course going back looking for all of those old conversations, and they're gone. They're nowhere to be found. All the old retcon conversations of I think it's a line, but I'm not sure are gone. All right. So you come from so for me this just recently flopped back. And I came from it was undivided for the longest time. Originally divided, then the Mandela was undivided for years and years, and now bloop, we're back. It always freaks me out though because there's a bunch of people on here going, "No, the Mandela was that it used to be undivided." I'm like, "No, it wasn't." But yes, for them it was. So clearly, I have flopped over into another timeline at some point. I tend to want to think it's recent, but I'm not sure. Who are the other 26 watchers looking? I wonder. Woo. Okay, one of the things to realize though, I mean, assuming that there's anything true in the world anymore, I have many times read that the majority of humans are lurkers. So, and any group, if you have, they say about only 10% people talk, and the other 90% on average are just going to be quiet. They're just not talkers, they're just listening. So, I don't think it's weird at all. And that's true for like Yahoo groups, and well, we don't have those anymore, but social media in general also. So if you got 10 people chatting, then so it's not weird. Even if you're on a basket weaving channel or something where I'm pretty sure that there's not a lot of, secret government observation or anything. So I don't really think too much of it. It was turmeric in my timeline, and it changed around 2016 and never came back. See? Yeah, I know. Shari, we used to agree on more Mandelas, but now, every time the giant salad of reality is tossed, there are fewer people that agree with us on everything. Van Gogh lived longer than before the Mandela, so it would make sense. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't track that enough, but that would make sense if he lived longer, which we are definitely seeing in general, I think, that lifespans have increased as much as they're saying that it's dropping in the United States. So my mom died at a certain age that when she died, I looked it up and it was she had lived longer than the average lifespan for women. When she died, I looked it up and it said, okay, like, yes, our family lives a little longer than the average lifespan. All of us have. So I'm kind of happy because generally stuff runs in families. So that means I probably will survive reasonably long also. Well, now, last I checked, she actually only survived average lifespan. And I looked at the span for that year that she died too. So, because I know it's always changing. So now when she died, she only lived an average lifespan, not long. And so the actual, I think, average lifespan in these consecutive timelines is getting longer. And I don't remember people living to 120 years old. I'm sorry. There was no way. 100 was like, you got to 103. That was like amazing. There were no 120-year-olds. Now people get to 100 and they're on the dance floor. That used to be you'd be 100, you couldn't get out of your wheelchair, and there were almost none of them. So things are shifting that direction. So I'm not really surprised Van Gogh lived longer, as a lot of people have, I think. But yeah, interesting though. So you all came from the Nova division. So for you alls, then almost all of you, it sounds like this is just a straight Mandela that's been around for a while. So that makes me think I'm the one who shifted it on this one. It might have been me. We used to play punch buggy. If you saw a Volkswagen, you had to be the first to say the color and you could punch the other person. So for me, it was pediddle. And if you saw a car coming with one headlight out and you said pediddle, I don't know who comes up with this stuff. You said pediddle before the other person, anybody else said, like the other person next to you, if you beat them, you get to punch them. However, if you said pediddle and then it turns out it was a motorcycle and not a car with a headlight on or anything else that just normally has a single light, they get to punch you. So you took a little bit of a gamble if you yelled it too soon. So see, I think some of you guys comes from I call it a more recent timeline. Basically, it's more similar to the current timeline than the one I came from. Your reality is more similar to now. What you remember. Not that it's identical and you don't have any Mandelas, but it definitely seems like some people, they are just more in tune with the current reality than others. Punch buggy, no punch back. Yeah, no, we didn't have. We definitely had to punch back. If you got pediddle wrong, then you got to punch. So yeah, I guess you could. It was mostly something we played at night because nobody had headlights on during the day. All right, so yeah, okay, I was really kind of reluctant to use this one because I didn't know if many of you guys would remember. That was me that shifted then, apparently. But I didn't really have anything really good for the thumbnail, and I just wasn't in the mood for hunting really hard today, frankly. I was really busy with work and I was into it. I was like, I'm not looking for Mandelas all day. So here's the Logopedia. The other thing I didn't really notice, there's one thing I did see. Okay, this is my original timeline, but in my original timeline, the W didn't have these big long legs like this. So it was kind of split more down the middle here, where the V, then the bottom of the V was close to the top of the W's. So this is like a very weird W. It is not a W that has all of its parts at the same level. And I remember a W where all of the parts were at the same level. They didn't like encroach into the V territory, if that makes any sense. And that was my original timeline. It did have the division, but the W stayed in its half of the circle. And then this one, it encroaches. So you go back and back and back. It's pretty much been all the same, except for recently, for some reason, they felt like the bottom of the W wasn't going to touch the circle, but that was discussed here years ago, so that's not specifically a Mandela. The only other thing is when I did look at this history, I don't think I remember this, but I definitely don't remember this being in the history. And I'm hearing some kind of mumbling rumors that if it's spun, it now looks like a swastika. And I don't remember anything about that either. I don't remember this, and I don't remember anything about the VW if spun, like the logo looks like a swastika. So swastikas in the news, that guy apparently tried to drive through the gates and get at the White House, and he's an Indian dude with an Indian name and an Indian face, had a Nazi flag on him. Doesn't make any sense. Suddenly everybody's a white supremacist except for white people. The last white supremacist attacker was like Latino. Now we got an Indian one. I'm like, is anybody noticing that nothing makes sense anymore? It's like, where are the white ones? I don't know. I feel so trolled anymore. My timeline, I believe we really went to the moon, all 6 landings, but in this timeline, I think NASA wasn't for real. So that's huge. So for me, there was just the one moon landing, absolutely, positively claimed to only be one moon landing. It did seem much more realistic then. There was some rumor that we didn't really go, but the evidence was kind of, it wasn't really exactly, it was interesting, but it wasn't like smoking gun good evidence. Now there's tons of evidence that we didn't go. All the old rocket launches look totally different for me. They look less realistic. They really do look like a floaty balloon pulled up the rocket. They used to really look like they launched. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. It definitely looks way fakey now. A lot of it looks way fakey. I mean, like, I don't even know what reality is anymore, but if reality is anything like that, there other people exist and all this is really humans and not just something on the screen, assuming that much, then I would say that it has to be fake, because there's just so much like evidence that it's fake in the current timeline. So like, I know you're going to say they fake that stuff. I don't know what that means. Like, what's real then? I don't know if space is fake. Even if NASA's lying, that doesn't mean space is fake. It just means they're lying. It could mean space is fake. I don't know, but it gets complicated. Okay, so that one, the Good Samaritan one. So good find on that one. Oh, I think I had this one pulled and I lost it already. Let's go back. Somebody found some Target logo residue, and I just I mean, I know it's an old Mandela, but I just really miss my old Target logo for some reason. There's a big Target here, and now it just looks like ridiculous. And a lot of people don't remember the old logo anymore, it seems like. Let me go to my old Reddit where I can find stuff. Derp. Derp, derp, derp. Saved. Somewhere is saved. Here. Target logo residue. So somebody found this one. User Empress 111111. Yeah, Empress 111 right here. Found this old Target residue. And there it is, the old logo. So right now it's just that white dot and the white circle. But it used to have like more levels. And actually way back for me, there was like one more on there. And then the first Mandela was that the first ring disappeared. And then the rings, they just sort of started coming off one by one. Like every year or two, there'd be like, wait, I thought there was another ring. So we're really, literally down to just a dot and a circle. So it looks more like a dot to me. It doesn't really look like Target. Like it's not the classic. Oh, of course, now that all comes up. Wait. This is interesting, actually. Okay, so this one pretty much shows it. Actually, this is interesting that so many shows it like that. Because, okay, so there's the red and the white for this one. Red and the white. So here is the white. There's one dot, a ring, and then an additional liner. And here, normally, there's just one dot, a ring. And then you could say that's the background, right? But whatever the background is, it's not white in like most of the signs. It is just because the white is the normal background. But so you can see here, boink, this is what it was looking like for a while, which just looks totally wrong and doesn't really look like a Target to me. It looks like a circle with a dot in it. And then they came out with the white logo, and they're saying that's a different kind of store. They changed it to white. Now, my store suddenly all has white ones, so that makes it even more confusing. Confused with this. I don't know what's going on, but this old one, this one is one I saw, it was the first Mandela it got to here, but this is a lot closer to what I used to have, and I just missed it. So this was some old pharmacy, interestingly enough. All right, so that one splits. Another one that's been interesting is just that I've noticed on retcons, there's been a bunch of people, and I think didn't Moneybags just do a video on it, on the Cheshire Moon. And so for people who don't know, that's when the moon now rotates. Well, it doesn't officially rotate, but the light that shines on it, the storyline is it rotates. So you end up with a moon that's like a bowl. It just goes like this, like a smiley face, just the smile part. And it rotates and it looks like a bowl, and also like the smile of a Cheshire cat. And so they call it the Cheshire Moon. So for me, the Cheshire Moon showed up a number of years ago. First, it was like almost a bowl, and then a couple years ago, it slunk down to be a complete bowl-shaped, smile-shaped thing several years ago. So it's been kind of interesting to see a big chunk of people have only just seen the Cheshire Moon, and it's been around a couple years. I think they had time to see it. We were talking about it all the time on here. So it seems like there's been a new flux of people who come in that were not familiar with Cheshire Moon. In fact, somebody did a poll on it on Retcon, and a big chunk of people said they had only seen it in the last couple months, which is very interesting. Target logo has flip-flopped so often. That's interesting, Shari, because for me, it just keeps losing rings, but has never come back. It has not gone back. So it's not flopped. It's flipped. It just keeps changing. Mandanimal remembers like me. Cheshire Moon's a couple years old. So I think we got a new batch in, or we've gone in with their batch, or whatever, however it works. But The South Cheshire crescents, they were always at the sides, not the south. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, another ring. So Shari remembers. A lot of people do. I don't think I've seen anybody who remembers clearly that there was just a dot in a ring. So that's still a fairly strong Mandela, I think, for a lot of people. But weirdly, I don't know, people got used to it, but it doesn't seem like it freaks people out that much either. It still bugs me when I go by. I'm like, that is the wrong sign. Okay, so where are we here? You're done. Okay. Do any of you remember the upside down cross being a Christian symbol? Because I knew a fair number of really religious people, and they even had sermons on this. Because when I was a kid, I'd hang out with other families and even go to church with them. And so the whole upside down cross thing was a symbol of the devil. And these are people who literally read every word in the Bible, would have long late night discussions on the meanings of parts of it. One of them, her dad was a priest, and he was the priest of the church. Not one of those creepy priests. He was a fairly good guy. And there was never a thing where the upside down cross, I have never ever heard of that ever until, so now I guess it's called the Cross of St. Peter, and it's a Christian symbol now, the upside down cross. It kind of reminds me of how the Nazi symbol, to me, originally for me, did not have like an ancient Buddhist version. And then it showed up that one tiny little sect once used the Nazi symbol, and then it was like more and more of them, and then the whole it went spun the other way thing, and now it was like this huge old Buddhist symbol, but originally it wasn't for me. And I watched that Mandela grow, so that's another reason why I'm quite positive. Cross of St. Peter. So here's the wiki. As you can see over here that they actually have the upside down cross. Cross of St. Peter, or Peter's cross, inverted cross, known as the Petrine cross. I've never heard of it. Is an inverted Latin cross, traditionally used as a Christian symbol, but in recent times also used as an anti-Christian and satanic symbol. See, it doesn't make any sense. Why would they grab something that's a Christian symbol and say, now it's satanic? It wasn't a Christian symbol, I'm pretty sure. In Christianity, it is associated with the martyrdom of Peter the Apostle. The symbol originates from the Catholic tradition that when sentenced to death, Peter requested that his cross be upside down, as he felt unworthy of being crucified in the same manner as Jesus. The Petrine cross is also associated with the papacy, reflecting the Catholic belief that the Pope is the successor of Peter as Bishop of Rome. All right, so there's now a belief that Peter the Apostle was crucified upside down, as told by Origen of Alexandria. What in the heck is that? Also known as Origen Adamantius, was an early Christian scholar. Adamantius sounds like an adamantium from certain sci-fi fantasy movies. It was a prolific writer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Tradition first appeared in the martyrdom of Peter, but possibly predating the apocryphal Acts of Peter, blah, blah, blah. According to Roman Catholicism, the Pope is Peter's successor as Bishop of Rome. Therefore, the papacy is often represented by symbols that are also used to represent Peter. One example being the Petrine cross. So apparently the papacy now is often represented by the upside down Petrine cross. Okay, so I don't know what to say, but that's pretty darn creepy. Has anybody ever heard of this business? Because I'm like, no. The papacy is represented by the upside down cross. The Petrine cross. I wonder how much more creepy stuff is in there, too. I really, really do. Yeah, Shari, I know. I like the new Reddit. Everything is so big, and you have to scroll. Like, I feel like a kindergartner. I scroll past this one and get to the, like, and I want to zoom along, And my hand is like scroll. Because everybody's like, all right, I don't want to be negative, but it's bugging me. I just pray that we'll get to keep the old Reddit. That's the timeline I want to go to, where we get to keep old Reddit as an option. I thought it was Judas on the upside down. I have never heard of it, any upside down crosses being Christian or Catholic. That was like that was the kind of stuff that like the Grateful Dead or some rock band would use. It was demonic. They said it was Peter, the Petrine clause. So preliminal, okay. In one timeline of the moon landing, in one of the parallel Earths, when the astronaut lifted something from the ground, it wasn't a rock, it was a Coke bottle, then the live feed cut off. Huh, nope, I haven't heard of that one. The Capitol building has a new hat made of columns. The Capitol building in the United States? Capitol. That one is, I've already had that one on as being shifty. I wouldn't exactly be shocked if there was more to it. More shifties. Interesting. Okay, I see what you mean. I do see what you mean. Man, it looks like the world's biggest lamp finial. All right, here we go. Could be a little bigger, couldn't it? Why did not load very big? Let's try this one. That's a little better. Yeah, this piece, I agree with you. Yeah, it was a giant onion. And then the next Mandela for me was it kind of got longer and it had more levels like this, it's like cake layers. And instead of a giant onion, it was cake layers with a little onion. This is new here for me. I agree with you. It looks like a really long finial. I also feel like this statue thing has gotten a lot bigger. What is on the top there? Because it looks like it might be a little different than I recall. I don't remember this bumpy part and then another bumpy part. What's going on with the top of the Capitol building? All right, Capitol building statue maybe? Okay, I see now. I think I see now why it's bumpy. Okay, interesting. It's the same person, but this, okay, let me open it in a new, so you could see it here. Okay, so I do remember this being up there. First it was like Native American, then it was some kind of Latin thing. But this whole business is the new bumpy part. I don't remember that. It looks extra corny. What is up with all that? What is this? Gosh, it just reminds me of like bad 70s cartoons of superheroes or something, that they were too lazy to do a good job, so they just put some stars and stripes and slapped it on there, and they're like, yes, here's corny America. This is like corny America 2.3 here. So this is that second bump I was looking. I'm like, that statue. Yes. Okay. I do not remember this mess. This corny mess. Look at that. It's so taggy. Okay. Yeah, see there, that, okay. And it does not look good on top there. So for me, originally, the Capitol building was a big onion, and it just had like an antenna thing. Like there was just a straight stick thing. And for a while, you could still find residue of that, but I don't think you can find the residue anymore. So yeah, good find in Capitol building. Changed again. I'm going to add that so that I remember to put it in the summary later. It's like, yeah. No, that's not right. Always changing. All the stars are connected. Yeah, they look like they're connected to like TNT bombs or something. Fascies, yeah, I guess, is that fascies? I mean, it looks like, it doesn't look like it looks like clusters of giant pipe or something. It doesn't even really look like normal fascies. That looks like Emperor Palpatine's blue royal guards from Star Wars. Awesome, rad. Yeah, I don't know. It's corny. We are Rome, the simple. Yeah, I don't know. You just got to enjoy the movie as much as you can because it's just a wild ride anymore. The star on the head looks awkward. Let's see. Loop. Oh, you're right. I don't think I remember them dorky stars on the head. Now that you mention it, that shiny, I don't think those were on there before. Now that you mention it, I don't recall those. You're right. Good find. Let's see. I guess there's always a chance I didn't get a good look at it before, but no, they're pretty blatant. Yeah, they're pretty blatant. I don't think I would have missed it. Yeah. It does look a little different than I recall. What is this thing? I don't think I remember. It looks like there's like there's a thing here like what is that? I do remember some kind of stick thing on that side. I do remember the goofy headdress thing, which made it look kind of... See, for a while they said it was some kind of Native American thing with the feathers, but they didn't have the dorky stars, and I don't know what's going on with like this helmet head or something. So at that time, it looks like there's actually some lettering on it now. There's like, oh, there's a symbol S. That this thing has changed. Interesting. It just keeps changing. I don't think I remember these bumpy balls either, actually, on here. I do remember the fringing, but I don't know what this is. I mean, what clothing has these giant bumpy berry balls here? What is the S? There's something going on. Let's see what they say about this statue. Statue of Freedom. Armed Freedom, or simply Freedom. I don't remember anything about Armed Freedom. Designed by Thomas Crawford. Crowned the dome of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington. Originally named Freedom, Triumphant, and War and Peace. That's actually the name I remember. I don't remember Statue of Freedom or Armed Freedom. I remember Freedom, Triumphant, and War and Peace. So that name now is not the name. The statue depicts a female. Is that a female? Seriously? Okay, maybe. I don't know. I guess there's the woman upper part, so I guess so. The face doesn't look very female, though. Wait, okay, let's get away from that one. We're in this one. crest peaks at 88 meters above, blah, blah. Let's see. She is allegorical figure whose right hand holds the hilt of a sheathed sword, while a laurel wreath, victory, and shield of the United States are clasped in her left hand. So that's that thing in the left hand. Oh my gosh, it really does look like a really... This really does look like the DC universe or something. Look at this. Look at this corny shield. It really is a corny shield from the DC universe. People have been watching too much comics here. It's bleeding into the history. Her chitin is secured by a brooch inscribed U.S. I'm not sure what a chitin is. A chitin. What's a chitin? A form of tunic that fastens at the shoulder. Is secured by a brooch that's inscribed U.S. Okay, so that's that's what that thing is there. Okay, so it obviously would have never been mistaken for a Native American. So there's like a U with an S inside it, and that's what that corny... I don't think that was on there either before. Let's see. Initially, and is partially covered by a heavy Native American style fringe blanket. All right, so that's what's left of the Native American style. She faces towards the rising sun. She wears a military helmet adorned with stars and an eagle's head, which is itself crowned by an umbrella-like crest of feathers. Actually, although not actually Columbia, she shares many of her... See, I thought she was like Columbia last I checked. Freedom stands atop a cast iron globe encircled with one of the nation's mottos, E pluribus unum. The lower part... So that's supposed to be a cast iron globe she's standing on? Wait, where is it? This is the cast iron globe? It's not even round. Come on. It's so wrong. Yeah, I wonder if that's gonna change. What is that? It really does not at all look like a globe. Not like an Earth globe anyway. It's not even round. The lower part of the base is decorated with fasces and wreaths. 10 spikes are attached to her headdress. 10 spikes are attached to her headdress, shoulders, and shield to deter birds from roosting. The statue conducts lightning to its base where it is grounded by copper wire as a safe high current pathway, blah, blah, blah. All right, we could go on forever on this one, but the well-known Statue of Freedom has appeared on several official designs akin to that. Yeah, no, not for me. There's that face. Does that look... It's a weird looking face. I don't know if I'd stick that on a statue. She sounds like she's saying, like, what in the hell is that? She looks like she just saw a UFO or something. I don't know. This timeline, you just have to laugh because everything is just like getting more silly and corny every minute. Waiting for the aliens or the fake aliens. I know, they're taking a long time to show up. I'm getting rather impatient. Orion has a star shield now and 2 right arms. Sort of Orion has 2 belts. Orion has a star shield. I'm not sure what that means. Is that the right terminology if I wanted to Google it? Androgynous like everything. Yeah, well, you know, that just seems to be the way we're moving because... If you look at the faces, the structure in the face, it is just harder to tell male from female now. I mean, it's not just some like, you know, political thing. There really is less difference Even in people who haven't had any surgeries or taken any weird hormones or anything, there is just less difference. She looks like she just had her first ME. That's a good one. Yeah, she's like, wait, where's Arctica? What's wrong with that logo? Polybius word or something. I don't know what that word is. The face says, I'm not doing drugs. Oh my God. There's a lot of good jokes in that face. Yep. Okay. Where are we here? Festive St. Peter. I think I only have one left. It actually wasn't that super busy a Mandela week, but I was really busy. Like, I was just doing this new project, and there's been a ton of research, and I just haven't been on social media. I'm trying to dial back social media. I'm trying to not be sucked into the internet. So I've been getting up and not going on the internet and doing other things. And that's also cut back on the number of Mandelas I noticed, because a lot of them I see some article, I'm like, wait, that's not right. But now I'm just not seeing the articles because I'm not on. And it is a lot healthier mentally, I have to say. You get a lot more done when you don't do video games and you don't go on social media that much. Like, a lot more done. It doesn't suck out your brain cells. All right. Okay, this is the last one for me, and I'm like, I think I kind of said last time I was covering animals. I don't think I covered this animal having it. I am quite positive that mine never had it, but so the third eyelid, strangely, interestingly close to the word third eye, but the third eyelid has been getting on more and more animals. So for me, originally it was just like amphibians, and then a while ago cats have them. And so the third eyelid is, instead of just having your top and lower lid, there's like another lid that can slide in from the side, and it's often like clear or milky, and it can come, and they can kind of see through it. Now, I kind of don't see the point of having a milky one. I mean, like, why not have a clear one if you had the option? Because I think you can still see through it a little. But apparently dogs now have it. It's called a nictitating membrane. And lots of birds got them a couple years ago. They never had it. It used to be only the water creatures, because it kind of made sense, like, that they would protect their eyes some when they were underwater, but they could still see underwater, but they needed to kind of protect their eye from all the underwater gunk and attacks and stuff. So, but now it's like birds, and everybody and their uncle has a nictitating membrane, but dogs now have it. And weirdly, though, I could not find any decent images of a dog with a nictitating membrane pulled over. Like, so for cats, you'll see that they'll be asleep and it'll slide over. And I had noticed that for some years, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. So that one for me has been around a while for cats. But for dogs, no. And when I looked into this, I don't recall dogs being on the nictitating membrane list. I certainly have never seen my dog with the nictitating membrane over. So there's a lot of images of dogs with like an inflamed nictitating membrane and a problem with it, conjunctivitis and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all the images. But where's the images of the actual membrane over it? Like, what's the point of having a nictitating membrane if you never use it? Like, when did the dogs use this thing? Is it gonna show up in a couple years that they're gonna start using this? And one place I looked at, it said that some dogs have clear nictitating membranes and some have cloudy ones. So maybe, like, some of these old images of dogs with cataracts, they'll now say that they're actually nictitating membranes. But I'm like, why have a cloudy one if you could have a clear one? I don't, like, isn't it gonna, like, when are the dogs using this? It's I can't get my brain together on this thing with the dogs. I mean, I had dogs for, I love dogs. I don't have one now, but it's only recently that I didn't have a dog, because I usually would always have a dog with very little space in between. I think this might be part of one. But see, this is an infection of the third eye. So you can see this is the third eye. This would be, if not infected, it could go over the eye. But like, I want to see a picture of a dog showing the conjunctive. This is a prolapse. I'm not clicking on the super gross ones, but like, so a prolapse, when it fell out, I guess. I think a prolapse means it like flopped out of its spot. So here we see one flopped out of its spot, but not over the whole eye. That one seems to be cloudy, I guess. Here's one coming. Why is my dog's third eye lid showing? So here it's coming over the eye now. So I'm assuming they're going to say there's something wrong with this dog's eye, but this is going to give you an idea of what it'll look like when it comes over. And I swear, if my dog's eye ever did that. Now, one of my dogs got really bad cataracts, and her eye would glow milky. And it was actually quite beautiful, except for it was a cataract, which is bad. And it made her blind for a while until I had it removed. And so her eye would be all milky, like the moon. It was, you know, it is sad that it was so beautiful, but yet so, you know, blinding. But so I'm wondering if we're going to see some of those images now that used to be, and they'll, oh yeah, that's not cataracts. So all the time people would say, oh, your dog's eyes are so beautiful. You know, I'm like, oh, it's cataracts. Okay, so they're saying, I think they're saying this is a nictating membrane. See, to me, this looks like the cataract. So the nictating membrane went over and it looks like a cataract. I don't know. There's just something's off here. Episcleritis. I don't even know what is episcleritis? I don't think that's a nictating membrane, though. It looks just like a cataract. Inflammation of your episclera, which is the clear layer on top of the white part of your eye called the sclera. Okay, so that is not the nictating membrane. Here you see it coming across in a bird, nice and clear. Now, it makes sense to be clear because don't you want to still see? Otherwise, you just close your opaque first two eyelids if you weren't interested in seeing. You've already got two eyelids for that. So, yeah, I couldn't find anything here. So, I don't know. Is this hot off the presses and that's why we can't find anything? Because we could find it for the other nictating membranes when I was looking last time. So, I think this one is like new. You know, dogs are kind of my area. So, they did not have a effing nictating membrane. I'm sorry. So I keep waiting, you know. I just looked recently and humans don't have it yet. And we have a residual vestigial nictating membrane that doesn't come over the eye. That's right in here. And I did, last time I looked, find one story of a partial nictating membrane being present at birth in a girl. And that's all there is. That was all. So I'm waiting to see if we're going to start getting them, because I feel like all the mammals are starting to get them. First it was the amphibians, then it was the birds, and now mammals are coming in and cats. And I saw a thing today that certain kinds of sharks can blink. I don't remember any of those underwater creatures having the blink option, but now some sharks have like eyelids that they can close. And you think about it, the fish creatures didn't used to have that. I mean, now that I think of it, it does kind of make sense that you could close them if you're in a fight or something, but they didn't used to have that. It makes sense that camels have a third eyelid. Yeah, to protect from the sand. Yeah, but why cats and dogs? So the current story only was, well, it helps smear saliva around. I'm like, well, that's what the other two eyelids do. Plus, if your eyes are closed, you know, that's why we blink all the time, you know. So I feel like the story is really flimsy right now. The timeline hasn't fleshed that out. Pardon the pun. So, again, cats too, they like when they're sleeping, sometimes you can see it because they'll be like their two regular eyelids won't shut all the way and you'll see that nictitating membrane go over. But why? Like, what is the point of having one if you don't use it ever? So down the line, I'm thinking they will be using it. Like, it'll be more clear and oh, look, it's sandy, like you said, or something. There'll be a reason for it. So I don't know exactly what that reason will be. General protection, I don't know. Secondary line of defense, so you can see sort of. I mean, you look at the bird ones now. The bird ones are now beautifully clear, and I don't remember any nictitating membranes being just like totally cellophane clear like you're seeing them now too. They used to be kind of fleshy, but then we didn't used to have totally see-through flesh and blood and, fish that were totally see-through and all that. We didn't have all that either. So that's just come into the timeline now. 12. So I've only been talking 1 hour and 36 minutes. I'm about done too because I'm clacking along real fast. And I have no more. So if you guys have any, now's the time because otherwise we're just about done. The third inner eyelid is an extraterrestrial alien eyelid. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Where's it all coming from? Is it our own imagination? Evolution of planet? Evil, demonic baloney? I don't know. What happened? Question, what happened in your life right before you saw any Mandela Effects? So that's a tough one because I do remember way back some Mandela Effects, but I really have no recollection of anything specific happening in my life. One of the early ones, I think I was in high school, and that was Alfa Romero turned to Alfa Romeo, the car. And everybody's talking about Alfa Romeo, and I'm like, well, what happened to Alfa Romero? Because those were pretty popular cars when I was in high school. And I thought they came out with a new one called Romeo. Like, oh, they changed the name a little bit or something. And then I never heard Romero again. And now I find that there was never an Alfa Romero, but it was definitely Alfa Romero. And that was in high school. So there was that one. There's a few other ones that may have been from childhood, but I can't be sure because, I was a child. So that one, though, for sure I had. So when's that? 80s. I don't really remember anything real special happening back then, though. They just picked up. There's a few Mandelas here and there. And then in the last, since 2012, they've just cranking. Alfa Romeo, Spider. Yeah, there's no Alfa Romero, though. There was always Alfa Romero. Now that it didn't exist. Let me see I'm going to scream if it exists again, but I'm pretty sure it still never existed. I've looked into this one before, but it's been a while. What can we find for Alfa Romero? And that's an old Mandela for me. So I would have guessed that anybody who had that change would have pretty much had their memory overwritten, because how many people are going to remember that 30 years ago there was a confusion about the name Alfa Romero? It's actually interesting that those weird things even stick in my head. I just, for some reason, remember confusions very easily. Like, I don't remember my phone number, but I'll remember being confused about something. Alfa Romero. It's all right. Let's here I want results for Alfa Romero. Always interesting to see what comes up. Like, who else remembers? Not really. Somewhere in there, must have a Romero, but it's not showing up in these. It's been so long, though. I mean, but we know that people shift at different times, so it could be that there would be people it just shifted for, but it just doesn't seem like that's often the case for this one that was way back. Oh, I think one of the first ones was before that. It was the McDonald's one and the Oscar Mayer one. I think I had that even when I was like in the 70s. McDonald's, is that still a thing in this timeline? Like, Mac MAC versus MC for McDonald's, and I wouldn't swear on that one at all, but I do remember a confusion about that. And the other one was Oscar Mayer, the Mayer versus Meyer. Those I'm pretty sure about that Oscar Mayer one, and that was the 70s. So I've had them all along, you know. I mean, any earlier than the 70s, and I'm not going to remember because I was, you know, a baby. Are we going to be living in deserts? So the first creatures that had it, though, for me were amphibians. So they were living in the water. So either water or sand. I have to say, though, it would be convenient to have one if it was all clear like those bird ones, because sometimes it's windy and crap is blowing in your eye and you're like, but you still want to see where you're going. It would be nice to be able to slap an eyelid over that and still mostly see. And maybe it wouldn't be quite as crystal clear, but then why don't you just the outside of your eye get that good? You know, the more that I think about it, it's weird. We already have an outside of our eye. So then we'll have another outside that's maybe a little tougher, but a little less clear. And then we'll have two more that come down from here. It's kind of like the house where you shut the screen door, then you shut the main door, then you shut the bars, and then you just like, nobody's getting into that eye. Yeah. My baloney because of that song. That's why I got confused because I memorized that song. It's Meyer, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and that was, yeah, it changed. It's that song was why I'm sure. Beam Me Up Scotty was the first for me. It happened in the 70s. Huh, okay. So yeah, I mean, like, since I was a kid, there's been them, the McDonald's and the Oscar Meyer, and so I mean, before that, I don't know. I would guess that there were still some, but there was somebody on Redcon once. I know I've said this before that said that she talked to her grandmother, and her grandmother once was looking out at the sunsets, and now we have these red sunsets, and her grandmother said when she was a kid, the sunsets were never red and it freaked her out. She's like, this is creepy because we never had this and now they have this. So I found that real interesting that maybe the sunsets themselves being all red like that are like an early Mandela from before we were born. Because when I was a kid, we had sunsets, but they were just a little red. They weren't like screaming neon pink, cascading across both sides of the sky, and it looks like the devil has come from, you know, to wipe us away. That's how it looks like to me now. I mean, they're beautiful, but it's just amazingly, shockingly more extremely red than it ever was. So I don't find it hard to believe that way back, if you went back far enough, there was like none. And then maybe one day there was just this much, and then slowly. And that grandma remembered the days when there was none. So it freaked her out. The hot dog mobile. Yep. You know, when you're a kid and we didn't have internet or anything, so we'd sing those dorky songs. Why are they called the Big Mac? Yep. I don't know why not the Big Mick. I don't know. Maybe because Mac sounds better, but yeah, I still agree that it changed. I don't know if I would call a burger a Big Mick, but Fruit of the Loom. Yeah, I don't know when Fruit of the Loom changed. It was it had all long been changed before I found out about it. That was one of the first Mandelas I learned about. But you know, when you first learn about the Mandela, it's a lot all at once because you have every Mandela from before that, years and years and years of Mandelas raining down into your brain as you study this. Then once you kind of catch up, then you just have them coming along, you know, a few a week or, you know, trickling down. You're kind of used to it. So it is not nearly the giant shocking processing that you need to do when you first learn of it. Africa was not connected to the Middle East, Colorado states. Yeah. So for me, Africa, like there was Europe and then Africa was kind of under there. And it's just been like squashing up. Um, it's reversed. So for you, it's this way, I think. It's squashing up under Europe and kind of mashing in from the side. And so that's something that's been very gradual for many, many, many years, but it wasn't all like mooshed up against like that. I don't know. It looks like everything's going to come back together and like eventually in one big Pangea type of thing. Yet we're getting all these islands, so we're going to get like a giant Pangea with a bunch of islands or something. I'm like, I think we all should have our own island, and it seems like the timeline is working on it. Or at least anybody who wants an island should be able to afford to have their own island. So that's the timeline I'm going to, where we can all fly our little anti-grav free energy crafts over to our private island that's run on like solar power or something. That's where we're going to be heading, and total freedom, I might add. And let's end the wars while we're at it, you know. I mean, if you're going to have good stuff, you might as well go for it. My son's heart surgery had changed by 2005. I found out at a checkup. I thought, well, that's downright trace. I have definitely heard that from other people whose medical histories with the heart structure keeps changing. So it makes a certain kind of Mandela sense, if you know what I mean. Spain didn't sack down. It was higher up. Yeah. The whole Europe is totally weird looking to me. But then again, the States and the United States are shifting around. I mean, this is crazy town. You just can't make this stuff up. You know, people say we have imagination or we're making up. I'm like, there is no way I would try to say anything this wacky and try to push it off as real. There's way anybody would even try to tell such a massively ridiculous sounding story as this. That's the crazy part about it. It is so much more bizarre than anything I would have ever tried to pass off. And like if you wrote a science fiction and you wrote this, it would be, no, that's just too crazy. That you got to make the story make more sense. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even follow any of our, I think we all had certain theories about how things could work, and it doesn't follow those either. Like I can't, that's one of the things that makes you crazy is you're trying to make sense of it. You're trying to come up with the theory that explains it. We can't even get that far. I mean, people do try, but they can't. None of the theories totally explain everything that happens. Denmark is weird. Yeah, I know. It's endless. It's so endless. The geology changes are endless. Mediterranean Sea was wider. There's so many. India was ginormous. I agree with you there. It's definitely a lot smaller. It was so much bigger, and the shape has changed. Australia was way to the east. Now that's interesting. I just remember it down way south. Landmass in the Arctic, yes. Arctica for some of us. And a year-long ice sheet, yeah. Now I think we have that back. For a while I was in a timeline where we actually had open waters in summer. That freaked me out. They said, they blamed it a little on climate change. Like, the ice used to melt a lot in summer, but now it melted all the way. Woo, climate change. That's one of the reasons why I just can't take climate change so seriously, because we're all going to die because all the ice melted at the Arctic. And then, no, it's back now. It's like, we're all going to die because all the ice melted in Greenland. Now it's back. It's like, whatever you're worrying about, it's probably going to be gone next year anyway. Yeah, I was late to the party and I walked around for days dazed every time I looked something new. Yeah, no, it shocked the heck out of me when I first learned because I had actually just hadn't been watching TV a lot for a number of years and I hadn't really been exposed to a lot of the latest Mandelas. And so when I learned about it and I started reading and I just was like fixated, and then I'm like, I turn on the TV and I start looking. I started turning on the nature shows. I'm like, that animal didn't used to do that. I mean, like manta rays didn't used to fly out of the ocean and fly and glide, and alligators didn't used to like take care of their young. They just had them and they were on their own. They didn't used to like protect them and hide them in their mouths, and they had this whole mating ritual and all this. And they didn't used to do all that. There were so many things where I'm like, wait, nope, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. It was really quite a lot to process. I'm still waiting of dying of heat or drowning. So yeah, since the 70s, they used to say that the ice age was coming. Any minute now, there was going to be the ice age. Then they were even saying it could happen in as little as 15 minutes. Like a deep freeze whoosh. So we're all terrified of the ice age. Well, or they at least tried to make us that. And so then it was global warming. I'm like, of course, every time it's like, oh, well, this is the science, and then, oh, wait, no, this is the science. No, wait, this is the science. And I'm just as guilty as anybody because when I was a kid, they would say, well, this is the science. I'm like, hey, mom, dad, this is the science. And they were like, they're always changing their mind, whatever. And they're just like poo-pooing it away. I'm like, no, that was bad science, but this is the good science, like we now know more. So this is the good science. And they're like, yeah. So now I am like, their age and I'm like, yeah. But the kids come up and they're like, no, this is the real science. This is the good science. I'm like, you know what? Give it 10 years, there's going to be a whole nother story. And indeed, every 10 years, there's a whole nother story. Greenland was never near Canada, yes. And Greenland now has big chunks where that's technically below sea level, as does Antarctica. So basically, it's kind of an archipelago. Yeah, Japan was off the Chinese coast. Agreed. New Zealand was now New Zealand is different for everybody. New Zealand is in a lot of places and a lot of timelines. For me, it was always to the east of Australia, like right next to it. But I've definitely heard all different stories. And then now it's like for you, it's way out here. It seems like it's sliding back up now to the old slot, but I only had one. There was one chunk for me, New Zealand, and it was smaller, at least compared to Australia, than it is now. It's now 2 pieces. Looks like it's almost 3 pieces. Does anybody remember the Dragon's Triangle off the coast of Japan? It was directly opposite the Earth as Bermuda Triangle. Nope, I do not remember that. I think Chick became a different person right when she was about to get married and when she had a car accident. I've definitely noticed that people, after a major event, they turned into a different person. You'd want to blame it on the event, but then they'd had other major events and they didn't turn into a different person. So I do wonder sometimes if there's a bunch of shifting then, and then they just went to a different timeline or something. Yeah, there's definitely been people like that it didn't used to be that they'd be it used to be that people would go through big events and might slightly change them, but they wouldn't turn into a whole nother person, like just not a bad or worse person, but just different. They're just different. Sometimes they're worse, sometimes they're better. So like one of my friends, actually, she's a lot more together in the current timeline. She has a lot more money. She used to be like paying, like had to skip bills some months because didn't have money, and now she's always had a reasonable stash and that was never a problem. And now she complains about money, it's because she only has 1 year's worth of money instead of 1 week's worth of money. she handles stress a lot better. A lot of things she's just a lot better at. So she's real different too. Yeah. So 2 of my 3 friends have changed a lot. One, I would say she's a lot stronger person. The other one is just kind of antisocial. I wouldn't say he's a bad person, but he's just not social anymore. He's just not interested in socializing. He's a loner. The old one loved to talk and go out with friends and stuff. This one just doesn't. Just doesn't. So I kind of feel like that one is gone. Like that friend of mine is gone. There's another person there that is an okay, fine person, but there's no connection. So it's hard enough to make friends when then your friends just disappear into the thin air and are replaced by doppelgangers. I know that sounds totally insane. That sounds so insane. I'm sorry, universe, but I don't know. You just got to do your best. Hopefully we'll eventually get a timeline where people get along better and we can make friends easier. It sounds like a good timeline, doesn't it? Get the social stuff back on the road. All right, well, yes, I think I've talked enough about nothing in particular, so it's time to go. Thank you all. You guys had a lot of good ones today, so that helped out. And you know the drill. Think good thoughts, everybody. Thank you for coming. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.